This is not your typical barefoot shoes video. I am not some high-performance athlete who runs half marathons or lives in the gym. I'm just a normal, unathletic guy who wanted to treat his lifelong foot pain. But to tell the full story of how barefoot shoes changed my life, we need to rewind to 6 months ago. I was standing at the airport in the Philippines. There was a massive line at immigration, probably 2 hours long, but it wasn't the wait that was annoying. The problem was that my feet, especially my heels, were killing me. And it was weird because I was wearing some fancy Nike Air Maxes, these shoes that supposedly have extremely cushioned, comfortable heels. But no, I was in pain. I was in line and my heels were sore and I was just shuffling around. And I thought, something's wrong here. I've spent 30 years of my life trying to adapt my feet into shoes that just don't fit. And it hasn't been fun. I have wide feet, and by now I have a bad right knee that flares up whenever I do anything strenuous, and I have a sore right Achilles. I guess in the olden times you could call me a nerd, always in front of a computer, played too many video games, I hated playing sports or exercising. I didn't really move much, but when I did, I had a bad heel strike and I would get shin splints very quickly. So in typical Paolo fashion, I fell down a rabbit hole and did some research. After a while, it hit me. Holy crap, the shoe industry's been lying to us. I watched all of the barefoot shoe YouTubers. I, like many others, bought an ebook of Born to Run. And what have I learned from all that? I think it's that our feet have just been spoiled. Our feet have been relying on cushion that we don't really need. Our toes have been cramped into tight toe boxes for the sake of aesthetics. It's almost like modern day foot binding. The foot, which is supposed to be this complex network of bone and muscle, has been rendered underutilized. It's like wearing mittens permanently on your hands when you don't need to. Oh my god, this is hard. Hey, it's Editing Paolo. If this has resonated with you so far, give it a like. Thanks. Maybe I should look for better shoes. There's this big umbrella term called barefoot shoes. Previously, I think they were more marketed as minimalist shoes. In general, from what I've found, some things have to be true. Number 1, there has to be a wide toe box that won't squish your toes. Number 2, it should have minimal to no arch support. Number 3, it should have a very thin, flexible zero-drop sole. Zero-drop just means that the shoe is completely flat. There should be no elevation between the heel and the forefoot. Another term you'll hear is stack height, which is basically just the distance between the bottom of your foot and the ground, and you'll want this as small as possible as well. You'll find some shoe companies that advertise themselves as barefoot might only hit a few of these criteria. For example, I've found that the Merrell Vapor gloves, those are a bit too narrow at the toe box for my liking. Or these shoes that I have from Lems, they have quite a bit of cushion, so the stack height is quite thick. But in doing research, one shoe model in particular stood out as being the top recommended all-rounder barefoot shoe. These are the Primus Lites by Vivobarefoot. What I found out is that quality barefoot shoes from a brand like Vivobarefoot are darn expensive. I was lucky enough that I found a pair of Primus Lites on eBay for around 75 Australian dollars shipped. This was a true steal, and these were my first barefoot shoes. First impressions, yeah, they look kinda weird. They're sort of like clown shoes, but I guess that's what the wide toe box gets you. But that's okay, I'm not here for aesthetics. So what do you think of my barefoot shoes? Unlike many barefoot shoe YouTubers, I'm not switching from a highly run-centric active lifestyle. Most of my exercise is fairly low impact. Walking around the city or some easy bushwalks or hikes around Sydney, cycling to and from work, walking to and from the train station. 3 days a week I'll walk probably an 8,000 step day when I work in the city, so this will be evaluated with that in mind. Regardless of my low exercise levels, the first mistake I did was definitely going into it too hard straight away. Even though I wasn't walking particularly long distances, especially compared to others out there, my feet became very sore very quickly. My ankles were killing me. My calves were on fire. It's as if I was using muscles I had never used before. I had to make sure I was massaging my feet at the end of each day. My entire foot just had knots everywhere. I think it's because when you have very cushioned shoes, you're allowed to heel strike a lot more, and this means you're engaging your hips a lot more when you're walking. Whereas with barefoot shoes, you will feel that heel strikes are painful, so you adjust pretty fast. But in doing so, you're transferring a lot of the work more to your ankles and to your calves. The propulsion comes more from the lower half of my legs rather than the upper half of my legs. Knowing all of this, I definitely did a bit more research into how I should be running and walking with barefoot shoes on. There's a YouTuber named Grown and Healthy, and he's helped me a lot in terms of figuring out how to walk properly. And that just feels weird, right? Like, who would think that you would need to research how to actually walk properly? But I guess that's what the shoe industry's done to us. And after a rough start, I soldiered on. My barefoot shoe collection grew a bit. I got shoes for hiking, shoes for casual wear, shoes for the beach, and here we are now a couple of months later. So I'm not sure if it was my shoes or the other way around, but I just started moving way more than I ever used to. And to me, that's a win, however which way you put it. As a mostly sedentary nerd who spent way too much time on his computer, this is the most consistent exercise I've done in my entire life. I still don't like running and I don't run a lot, but I've been doing a lot more day hikes. If I look at my stats, I've had more 8,000 step days over the past 3 months than over the past 3 years combined. And I think that's the biggest win for me, because without barefoot shoes, I probably wouldn't have been encouraged and motivated to actually go and do all of this exercise. And suddenly it's a habit for me now. As for my feet, the pain that I had in my first few weeks has mostly disappeared now, except when I really push my body, say going on a 15-kilometer walk or something. I've gone from requiring almost a weekly foot massage to nothing at all. Weird thing is, I actually have definition in my calves. I wish I took a picture of what my calves looked like before, but I used to be teased for having supermodel legs. But look at me now, I have the calves of a 15-year-old boy. Also, look at my soles and my callouses, they're definitely thicker now. I also used to get blisters every now and then on my pinky toe, and I don't have that anymore thanks to the wider toe boxes I've been wearing. So do I recommend it? I think it's definitely worth trying. If you have wide feet like me, at least try it out. One thing I recommend is getting them used at eBay like I did, because they are quite expensive brand new. Now, if you're dealing with chronic injuries though, please consult a doctor beforehand. And if you're curious about the barefoot shoes that I've gotten so far, check out this video right here where I review all of my barefoot shoes to date.